بسم الله. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه وسلم. الله أكبر، الله أكبر، الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر، الله أكبر، ولله الحمد. الله أكبر، الله أكبر، الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر، الله أكبر، ولله الحمد. We are online. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Inshallah, we will start in just a moment talking about nikah. Continue the topic of marriage مع المجلس الثالث من مجالس الفقه. Session number 3 of Islamic fiqh, Islamic jurisprudence and rulings. And we are discussing the rulings of marriage, الزواج, nikah. Just a moment, inshallah, until I get everything ready to go. Bismillah. 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 Go ahead, inshallah, and share this link for the brothers and sisters who are watching. You may go ahead and share this link, inshallah. And these are the times of takbir. This is the time of takbir all through the first 10 days. عبد الحجة. تكبير الله أكبر، الله أكبر، الله أكبر، لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر، الله أكبر، ولله الحمد. All right. Just making sure. Bismillah. Save. We are going to discuss or continue discussing the book of marriage, nikah. Tonight, inshallah, tabaraka wa ta'ala. Just a few seconds, inshallah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. ولله الحمد. الله أكبر، الله أكبر، الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر، الله أكبر، ولله الحمد. الله أكبر، الله أكبر، الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر، الله أكبر، ولله الحمد. الله أكبر كبيرا والحمد لله كثيرا سبحان الله بكرة وأصيلا. معلش يا جماعة استحملونا لحظات بس. شير. بسم الله. All right. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وكل من والاه واهتدى بهداه. All praise is for Allah, and may the best of peace and blessings be upon the soul of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his household and companions and followers on the righteous path up until the day of judgment. Dear brothers and sisters, welcome to a new majlis session of fiqh, Islamic ahkam, Islamic rulings, Islamic jurisprudence, and we are discussing an-nikah. We continue with the book of an-nikah or marriage, and this is from the book of al-fiqh al-manhaji which is one of the new presentations of fiqh on the school of thought of Imam Shafi'i. When it comes to marriage, most of the rules are common. But since we are adopting or we are focusing on the school of thought of Imam Shafi'i for now, we have to follow the same methodology. So in the first two sessions, we have talked about the definition of marriage, what is marriage, and we have talked about how Islam urged its followers to get married, especially when they need to, and how this is the nucleus of the society and the hukm and the ruling of nikah, and it depends on the situation of the person, whether he needs it and can afford it or not. And we have talked about family in Islam and how important is it, and the rules and rights and responsibilities of every member of family. And we have talked about women that you cannot get married to, and men that you cannot get married to. We've talked about all of these categories. We also talked about al-khitbah or muqaddimat, the introduction for marriage in Islam, and why is it important to have this premarital proposal kind of in Islam, and what are the foundation and the basis of choosing the future spouse. We've talked about all of these elements, what to use him for, and we talked about compatibility, how both of them can be compatible with each other, and what are the criteria that Islam has suggested. What should they do during that period? Can they look at each other? What relationship they may have? What are the limits of that? Seeing, consulting, being alone with that person. We also discussed quickly the arkanun nikah, or the pillars of marriage in Islam. 5 of them: as-sigha, or the formula, the wording of doing the contract; az-zawja, the wife; az-zawj, the husband; wali, or a supervisor and guardian for the girl; and 2 witnesses. Those are the 5 arkan or pillars. All of them have to be there as pillars. If one pillar of any building is broken, then the whole thing is broken. So we've talked about the conditions of each one of them. Very quickly to go over that, for as-sigha or the formula, it has to be done by the wording of nikah or marriage, zawaj or nikah, nothing else, zawaj or nikah, because these are the 2 words, or obviously the translation of that. In English, for example, it's going to be marriage. You cannot use any other word for that. Anything that refers to marriage exclusively, it has to be direct. It has to be done in the same session, and it shouldn't be contingent upon something in the future, like I will marry you on that day and then the wali accepts. No, it has to be right away. It should not be temporary. It should not be limited to a time. I marry you for 1 year. No, it cannot be like this. We talked about the wife, and we said the wife should be capable of not having anything to prevent her from marrying that person for whatever reason that we have discussed, in like she's not his mother or sister or so on. She should not be in a state of ihram, which is the state of sacred state of being in hajj or umrah. You cannot get married during that period. Same things would apply for the husband as well. We've talked about al-wali and al-wilaya, or supervision, which usually is for the father of the girl, then her grandfather from the father side. And we mentioned the order of the awliya, or those who can do that, and that it's one of the essentials of, or pillars of marriage according to the majority of the scholars, and one of them is Imam al-Shafi'i. What if somebody is not Muslim? If the father of the girl is not Muslim, there is no wilaya, there is no supervision for, because this is an Islamic contract. A non-Muslim person cannot be a supervisor or a wali in that case, a guardian for the sake of marriage, for the contract of marriage. She has to choose somebody who is Muslim in that case. And we have talked about various other conditions. I don't think we talked about the shahidan, the final of the 5 pillars. are the two witnesses. The two witnesses, why do we have the two witnesses? The main thing is ijab and qabul. The husband and wife offer an acceptance, and the wali is there to do the procedures of the contract. That should be done in front of two witnesses because Islam wanted to guarantee that, because marriage will put forth responsibilities and rights, and many things will be based on that contract. It should not be done by those two. It should be done in front of two witnesses at least, as minimum, so they will guarantee those rights and responsibilities in case any of the spouses in the future, any of them relinquish this contract or denied anything. There are some conditions for the two witnesses. The two witnesses, because this is an Islamic contract again, they have to be Muslims, they have to be males. Women cannot be witnesses for the marriage contracts. Imam al-Zuhri radiallahu anhu, he said, "Madat is-sunnah," to the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is that the testimony of women in regards to the prescribed punishments, nikah contracts and divorce would not count, and that is from a tabi'i, one of the followers of Sahaba, and usually that is something that it's not to be said by the opinion. He should have listened to that or heard that from a Sahabi companion who heard it from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The two witnesses should be adult and should also be trustworthy as well. They should be capable of hearing, because if they cannot hear, they would not follow what's going on. They should be capable of seeing. Blind would not see the man or the woman who is getting married to who. They would not be able to do that. It is recommended, as well as having two witnesses for the contract of marriage, it's also recommended to have some kind of witness for the wife giving consent to marriage. So because the marriage contract will happen between the groom and the father, typically wali, would say the wali, typically the father of the girl. That should happen in front of two witnesses. But what about if the girls did not give consent to this marriage? It is recommended that there should be some two witnesses also, or some witnesses to be present while she gives the consent for this marriage. If the father or the grandfather, they are not capable of, they want to get married and they are not capable of getting married because they don't have the money, and their children are capable of like financially good, they have to enable them, they have to provide for them to get married. So it goes both ways. What about the marriages of disbelievers? If two people, non-Muslims, they are married, what happened to this marriage contract? For example, if they accepted Islam, if the man is a non-believer and the woman is a non-believer, and then both of them accepted Islam at the same time, this marriage contract is approved. They can continue to be married. They don't have to renew it. They don't have to redo it if both of them accepted Islam at the same time or around the same time. If the man accepted Islam and the woman did not accept Islam, and she is a Christian or Jew, that's also okay, because it's okay for a Muslim to start to initiate a contract of marriage with Ahlul Kitab, or the people of the book, namely the Jewish and Christian women. So if they can do it in the initiation, in the beginning, they can start it, they can also continue it. But if it's the other way around, because in Islam it's not allowed for a woman to get married to somebody who is not Muslim. A Muslim woman cannot, according to the Quran, cannot get married to any mushrik or any person who is not a Muslim. What if she accepted Islam and her husband does not accept Islam? Then in this case, the agreed upon opinion in the school of thought of Imam Shafi'i is that we will wait for the period of iddah, which is the waiting period usually after divorce or after the husband dies. The waiting period, which is usually typically like around 3 months, she will wait for him. If he accepts Islam, he will be her husband. If he does not, then this marriage is severed or is nullified. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. As-sadaq. Let's talk about dowry for a little bit. What about dowry and the rulings of dowry in Islam? Dowry in Islam is the money or property that has to be given or is to be given for the wife because of the marriage contract. It is obligatory. It is obligatory on the husband right at the consummation or right at the contract, at getting into the contract of marriage. It becomes like a debt on the husband that he has to pay that dowry. And we will talk about the details of how much and so on. Why is it obligatory? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, وَآتُوا النِّسَاءَ صَدُقَاتِهِنَّ نِحْلَةً, and give women their dowries as a gift. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the imperative form. You should give women that. فَمَا اسْتَمْتَعْتُمْ بِهِ مِنْهُنَّ فَآتُوهُنَّ أُجُورَهُنَّ فَرِيضَةً. Many ayat are talking about that. And from the Sunnah, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we read in many hadith that he told one man, for example, to give the girl that he proposed to at least a cloth, if not maybe even a ring, a little small ring. He asked her to give her dowry. He said, I cannot afford, I don't have money. What about if you can just at least give her a cloth? No. What about the ring? And then he even said, I don't have money for a ring. He said, do you know any Quran? If you know any Quran, you can at least teach her some of that Quran. Also, one of the evidence for as-sadaq al-ijma', consensus of the Muslim Ummah, the scholars of the Muslim Ummah, that this is there. Sadaq or dowry, some people think of it as a price for the woman, as if you're buying something, which is totally wrong. It is just a gift to be given from the husband's side to the one that he is interested in for marriage, as يعني دليل على صدق رغبته في الزواج, as a sign that he's not playing games, that he is interested and he is serious in his intention to get married. That dowry could be mentioned in the contract. If they agreed on it, it's the pure right of the girl, of the bride, of the woman. It is the pure right of her. If they agreed on it and it's being specified in the contract, then he has to pay whatever they agreed on. So in some cultures, people think the father think that he has right in this money, or the family of the girl have right in this, which is not true. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَلَا تَأْخُذُوا مِنْهُ شَيْئًا أَتَأْخُذُونَهُ بُهْتَانًا وَإِثْمًا عَظِيمًا. Don't take anything from it. This is actually not right to do. فَإِن طِبْنَ لَكُمْ عَنْ شَيْءٍ مِّنْهُ نَفْسًا فَكُلُوهُ هَنِيئًا مَرِيئًا. Basically, these ayat talking to the fact that it is purely the girl's or the bride's right, pure right for her. لا حد لأقله ولا لأكثره. How much? What are the limits? There is no limit for the minimum or the maximum. It's up to the woman. Anything that can be used as money or property or has value, that's approved value according to Islam, that can be given as a dowry. So it can be a phone, because that has a value. It can be money, it can be a ring, it can be gold, it can be silver, it can be anything that has a value in Islam. It cannot be wine, for example. Wine does not have value in Islam. Islam does not deal with it or consider it as something that has any value, even though others would think about it as a value. So there's no limits for the minimum or the maximum. Because Allah said, وَأَحَلَّ لَكُمْ مَا وَرَاءَ ذَلِكُمْ أَنْ تَبْتَغُوا بِأَمْوَالِكُمْ. He did not specify. He said, you go ahead and pay of your money. When Nabi قال أعطيها ولو خاتما من حديد, give her even a metal ring, a ring that's very cheap, made of metal. So that's very insignificant, but it tells us that there's no minimum for it and there's no maximum. One time a woman accepted for her dowry 2 pairs of shoes, and then the Prophet said, do you accept that as a dowry for you? أرضيت من نفسك ومالك بنعلين؟ قالت نعم. She said, yes, I accepted it. That's what I want. فأجازه رسول الله, and then he approved it. Also Allah said, وإن أردتم استبدال زوج مكان زوج وآتيتم إحداهن قنطارا. If you are about to like divorce a woman or something, and you have given her qintaran, like a huge amount of money. Qintar refers to a pile of money, a chunk, huge chunk of money. Don't take anything off of it. So Allah is talking about huge amount of money, and in the hadith, the Prophet is talking about something very little, a metal ring, kind of fake ring. So basically, there's no limit for the minimum. There's no limit for the maximum. It's all whatever they agree on. She can ask for $1 billion. She can ask for just a ring or something. But again, if the husband can afford that, whatever they agree on. But it is recommended, like يستحب ألا يقل عن 10 دراهم. It is recommended to not have it less than 10 dirhams, because that's what Al-Ahnaf or Imam Abu Hanifa's madhab, school of thought, they said it should not be less than 10 dirham. I don't know exactly how much is this in the today's money, but it has some value in there. And also it is recommended not to be more than 500 dirham. We're talking about golden coins of that time, because that was the average or the muhur or the dowries for the daughters of the Prophet ﷺ. Average was 500 of their dirhams of their currency back then. And the Prophet, generally speaking, the Umar radiallahu anhu, for example, he said, لا تغلو صدق النساء فإنها لو كانت مكرمة في الدنيا أو تقوى في الآخرة لكان أولاكم بها رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ما أصدق رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم امرأة من نسائه ولا أصدقت امرأة من بناته أكثر من 12 أوقية. He's basically said, do not exaggerate when it comes to dowry by asking too much or giving too much, because if it is something that's good to do in this dunya, or if it has any value or reward in the akhirah and the hereafter, the one who has more right and will be more worthy of it would be Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In fact, the Messenger of Allah, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, he's saying, never gave in dowry any of his wives, or never received for any of his daughters more than 12 ounces of silver of their time. تعجيل المهر وتأجيله, can it be, when should it be paid? We just said that by consummation of marriage, mahr becomes like a debt on the husband. It has to be, it's like a money he owes for his wife. If he paid that even in advance, all in advance as they agreed on, that is okay. If it's to be delayed, that's also okay. If it is agreed that some of it will be paid in advance and some of it will be delayed or deferred later on, that is all a debt on him to her. Whatever she accepts should be all okay, inshallah. And in all cases, it has to be, it is the best, or it's more worthy of being paid off amongst all the debts, as according to one hadith, because of this debt you had this relationship, she becomes halal to you, as in the hadith. You have had this, it's become permissible for you to have a relationship with this girl because of that. So it's a debt on you, you have to pay. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. There are some other conditions about when it will be all on the husband, when it will be half of it, what if they divorce, if he divorces her before consummation of marriage, and other little details that I am just thinking I would skip all of that, inshallah, because there are so many more little masail or rulings that can be pertaining the mahr. But let me continue with the shurut fi aqd al-nikah, or conditions. What about putting conditions in the contract of marriage? What about if the wife comes and she puts a condition, I get married to you, and in the contract I put that condition? Or the husband, he puts a condition. We have three categories of conditions. One, the first category is if that condition is in agreement and in harmony with muqtada al-nikah, with the goal of marriage. Like she stipulates and puts as a condition that you should spend on me, you should provide for me. Well, okay, that's already without mention, goes without, it's obvious. It's the responsibility of the husband to financially provide for the wife. So that's okay. Obviously, there's no problem with that. If she said, like, I have to live with you, it's you have to spend on, all of these are in harmony with marriage, no problem. The second category is أن يكون الشرط مخالفا لمقتضى النكاح لكنه غير مخل بمقصود النكاح. What if the condition is not in harmony with marriage, but it does not totally oppose the main goal of marriage, which is intercourse. The main goal of marriage is the two people getting together and having the relationship. What if this condition somehow affects the marriage, but it's not against the main goal of marriage, which is them getting together and having a relationship? Like she would stipulate, for example, the woman or the bride would stipulate that he should not take another wife. He should not get married again. Or he puts as a condition in the marriage contract that he should not spend or financially provide for her. What if the husband said that? Well, that's an obligation on him by the very contract of marriage. By the very contract of marriage, you have to financially provide for her. What if they put such a condition? Obviously, this is not against the main goal of marriage, which is them getting together, or not affecting the fact that both of them can get together, can have the intimacy, but it's affecting some of the things related to marriage. In this case, the marriage contract is sahih, is valid. The marriage contract is valid because it's there and there is nothing to undermine it completely. But this condition was shartu fasid. This condition is corrupt or is invalid, and that's why it would not count. It's irrelevant, it would not count. It's coming against some of the things. As the Prophet ﷺ said, كل شرط ليس في كتاب الله فهو باطل. Any condition that's not in harmony, it's not in the book of Allah, meaning it's not in harmony with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in his book, then it's invalid. In this case, only the condition will not count, but the marriage contract itself would count. Number 3, what about if any of them puts the condition شرط مخل بمقصود النكاح? That condition undermines the very goal of the marriage itself. Like she said, I get married to you, but you should not approach me, physically approach me or something. Or he puts some kind of condition that I marry you right now, but there's a condition that I will divorce you tomorrow. Or she said you have to divorce me in 2 days, or something like anything that's completely against marriage itself. In all of these cases, a nikahu batil, this nikah is invalid. It would not count. That contract would not count in the first place because it involves a condition that undermines the very essence of nikah itself, unlike the previous category or the very first one. Let's talk about, move on to another topic, which is called mut'ah, al-mut'ah. Al-mut'ah for us Sunnis, Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, is not like the mut'ah for Shia. The mut'ah for Shia, we have discussed about the sigha, which is the contract of marriage, the wording of the contract of marriage. We said it should be munajjaza, غير معلقة, غير مؤقتة. Marriage would not count if it is temporary. If you say I get married to you for an hour or 2 or whatever time, day or 2, year or 2, or more or less, that would not count because it has to be mutlaq. It has to be unlimited. But mut'ah, what's referred to by mut'ah when we're talking about this is المال الذي يجب على الزوج دفعه لامرأته المفارقة له بطلاق أو فراق. This is the money that he should pay for her at divorce on his side, or at firaq, which is a separation requested by the wife. This is the money to be paid. When we're talking about al-mut'ah, we're talking about that money to be paid by the husband after divorce, whether it's initiated by the husband or requested by the wife. Al-mut'ah wajibatu lil-mar'a. Mut'ah, that amount of money to be paid, alimony kind of, not exactly, some terms here in the American sense, they might have some common shades with the Islamic meanings, but not exactly the same. Even marriage itself is not exactly the same. There are some differences as we are going through. So it will be for the woman in case she is divorced after the consummation of marriage, and even before the consummation of marriage, in case he did not specify a dowry for her, or in case a judge issued a judgment of separation of marriage, and in all cases, the reason of that separation is because of the husband. So in this case, in all of these cases, you're talking about a wife that the husband consummated the marriage with her, basically enjoyed that relationship with her, and then, or he did something, he did not do his responsibility that led to some kind of divorce or separation because of a reason that has to do with him. In all of these cases, the wife would deserve a mut'ah, which is an amount of money. That's in the book of Allah in the Quran. لا جناح عليكم إن طلقتم النساء. There's no blame on you if you divorce women. ما لم تمسوهن أو تفرضوا لهن فريضة. As long as you do not touch them or you do not specify a dowry for them. ومتعوهن على الموسع قدره وعلى المقتر قدره. Basically, Allah is saying, give them that mut'ah, that amount of money. It's not specified. Based on على الموسع قدره. If somebody is well-to-do, it goes with the financial capability of the person. If he is well-to-do, then it has to be decided accordingly. If he is not as financially good, it has to be also specified accordingly. متاعا بالمعروف حقا على المتقين. It is to be done in a kind way or in an agreeable way. حقا على المتقين, and it's due على المحسنين, on those who want to do perfect. وللمطلقات متاع بالمعروف. Another ayah talking about those who are divorced, they should have this متاع بالمعروف, in kind way, agreeable way. حقا على المتقين. How much this should be? According to the American law in here, it has to be half. Whatever they acquired after marriage, it has to be half. And with all respect to this law, in many cases, it might not be really 100% just for the man or the woman. It goes either way. I have seen one case, in one case, the woman herself, the judge issued that she should take half of what he's making. And she said, he issued a judgment of certain amount. I don't know the details. And she was the one who said, I know him. He cannot afford that, or he doesn't make that much. And she actually gave up. She did not take what the judge decided because she knew the situation of that person. I know also some women who took so much money from their ex-husband, which according to any common sense does not make any sense for anybody. And that's why those who have a lot of money, they go to the prenuptial agreement to protect their properties. In any case, Islam also did not specify. In some cases, it could be half of the property of that person or more. Could be more. In Islam, it's like justice should be served. Whatever is fair, it's to be judged according to, the Quran says, على الموسع قدره وعلى المقتر قدره. Well, if they agree in the first place, alhamdulillah. If he agrees to give her all of his money, or she agrees to give him all of her money, that is something to go between them. But generally speaking, it is some amount of money to be given to the wife, mainly to help alleviate her pain and her suffering and her loss after the divorce. Usually man will be maybe suffering too, but the suffering of the woman is usually more, usually, not all the time. وإن اختلف إن اتفق على مقدار معين, if they agree on something small or little or much, alhamdulillah, that's good, and that will be valid. If they disagreed, then the judge will make the assessment of that based on yasaru zawj, whether the husband is financially, depending on the financial status of the man. قالوا ولا يستحب في المتعة ألا تنقص. It's recommended not to be less than 30 dirham, or the value of that, again, 30 dirham. We're talking about a specific amount, dirhams of fidda, or of silver. These are coins that made out of silver. And also they said it's recommended not to reach half of the dowry, not to reach half of the dowry, the average dowry. One thing to be said in here is مسألة المغالاة في المهور. In some cultures, in some cases, some people think they are selling their daughter, or not selling their daughter. They think that they are, the more you request, that refers to the status of the girl. we take a mahr 100,000, 30, 40, whatever, more or less. That should not be the case, because it's not related to the value of the person at all. If it is, then the Prophet ﷺ would request the highest amount for his daughter. Imagine, this is the daughter of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, Fatima Zahra radiallahu anha, or Zainab. But he did not ask for so much money. It does not refer to that. It becomes more of extravagance. It becomes more of showing off, saraf and mufakhara and israf. That should not be there. Actually, the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, in more than one hadith, he told us that the less mahr to be given, or the less expenses of marriage, the more blessings will be in that marriage. The less, take that in mind, the less expenses of the marriage, the more blessings it will have. It also leads to so many problems, because you do it, you think you do it, it's going to be once. No. The other people in the family, you're setting up a bad example. Other people will look at you and they will try to copy you, and then it becomes more difficult for people to get married, because we live in a society. Her sister would look up to her, other people would look up to her. It makes marriage difficult, or at least it makes them, both of them, get into marriage and they are indebted and they have so much money to pay off. Make it easy and go the sunnah or the right way by making everything easy. It's just a gift to be given to them. It is not a matter of showing off. Also, when we have a divorce, talking about mut'ah, it is not to be used as a tool of war. The woman is trying to break her ex-husband down, financially break him down, or take revenge from him, or maybe he can be trying to do it if she's the one who is doing financially better. It should not be like that. Allah said, وَلَا تَنْسَوُا الْفَضْلَ بَيْنَكُمْ. Do not forget the grace, the good things that were between you. Do not forget them. If you forget that, this is one of the qualities of al-la'im. Al-la'im is somebody who takes something, you do him a favor, he sees something good from you, and then he does not keep it. His action in return is bad. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. قال صلى الله عليه وسلم إن أعظم النكاح بركة أيسره مؤونة. The greatest of marriage contracts in terms of barakah, in terms of blessings, will be those that were the easiest, or the easiest in terms of finances, simple and easy, not adding a lot of difficulty on the husband, or in both of them, but more so the husband. طيب. What is, when we have the marriage contract, what is based on that? Marriage contract, سماه الله ميثاقا غليظا. Allah called it a heavy covenant, a heavy contract, something that is sacred. What is based on that? الزواج والاقتران. Marriage is two people getting together, or two things getting together. Zawaj, either valid or invalid. The valid one that has all the pillars, the 5 pillars, they are there. We have as-sigha, the right wording of marriage. We have ijab and qabul, the offer and acceptance, consent from both of them. We have the husband, we have the wife, we have al-wali, and the 2 witnesses. So these are the 5 pillars: sigha, husband, wife, wali, shahidan, the 2 witnesses. If it's missing any of that, like there's no wali, for example, this marriage is invalid according to Imam Shafi'i. This marriage is invalid according to many ahadith. أيما امرأة نكحت بغير إذن وليها فنكاحها باطل 3 times he said it. فإن دخل بها فلها مهر المثل بما استحل من فرجها. If any woman get married without the permission of her wali, her nikah, her marriage is batil, is invalid, and he said it 3 times, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so on. Imam Abu Hanifa has a different opinion, but many hadith are actually talking about the wali being one of the pillars of nikah, especially for the woman who's getting it first time. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. If the marriage is valid, we have all the conditions and the marriage is valid, and the contract came on. What are the rulings that will be based on that? We will have rights and we will have responsibilities based on that for both of them, for either one of them. Number 1, حل الاستمتاع بين الطرفين. It would be permissible to have intimacy for both of them. Before that point of contract of marriage, if they get together and they have physical intimacy like intercourse, that's zina, one of the major sins in Islam. If the minute they have the contract, they get together, permissible. Actually, good thing. So the first thing is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala قال نساؤكم حرث لكم فأتوا حرثكم أن شئتم. Your wives are حرث لكم. You may reach out to them or approach them in whichever way you like. وجوب متابعة المرأة لزوجها. The woman should follow her husband and she should obey him and she should make herself available for him and she should also take care of his house. All of these, she's getting into a golden cage where she has the option. She decides which one to choose. But in Islam, once she chooses the husband, she has chosen her leader. She has to follow that leader. The only exception is if he is ordering her or telling her to do something that's haram, that's against Islam, or he's telling her to do something that's outside of her capability. And obviously, it should be all based on ma'ruf and kindness and everything, but he is the leader there, and she should make herself available for him. That's one of the things. For example, here in Islam, if the husband requests her for the intimacy and she said no, that is considered a rape in the Western culture. In Islam, it's not rape. In Islam, she should, as long as she does not have a valid reason. If she has a valid reason because of any physical reason she cannot do it, then it's okay. But the hadith إذا باتت المرأة مهاجرة فراش زوجها حديث أبو هريرة عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال لعنتها الملائكة حتى تصبح. If the woman forsakes or avoids or leaves her husband's bed, she will go in this night until the morning while angels are cursing her. There is a need for the husband. He should also fulfill her needs as well, but more so on her side. إذا دعا الرجل امرأته إلى فراشه فلم تأتي فبات غضبان غضبان عليها لعنتها الملائكة حتى تصبح ولكم عليهن ألا يطئن فرشكم أحدا تكرهون. Many hadith are talking about the same thing. So the number one thing is after marriage it will be permissible for both of them to halal for both of them to have the intimacy. It will be obligatory on the wife to follow the husband, to make herself available for him, and so on. Number three, al-mahr, it becomes obligatory like a debt on the husband. He should pay it as per their agreement. The next point is a nafaqah. It becomes obligatory on him from that point on to financially provide for the family or for her. What exactly? وعلى المولود له رزقهن وكسوتهن بالمعروف أسكنوهن من حيث سكنتم من وجودكم ولا تضاروهن لتضيقوا عليهن. Also the Prophet ﷺ said in خطبة الوداع ولهن عليكم رزقهن وكسوتهن بالمعروف. So basically all of these ayat, couple of ayat and one hadith are talking about financially providing for them. Scholars specify that in terms of الطعام والشراب, food and drink. والكسوة والمسكن, clothing and shelter, a place to stay. This is the minimum. They disagreed about the اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد العلاج or الدواء. Should he provide the treatment in case it's needed? In the time that we live in, there is ijtihad that yes, that should be provided as well. So he has to financially provide for those items as we discussed. The next thing that will be based on the marriage contract is a nasab, which is very important. Nowadays, people do not pay attention to that, which is the lineage, the bloodline. People, boyfriend, girlfriend getting together, two male and female getting together, getting a boy. Yeah, we have that mess in the many communities nowadays, especially in the West, because of the marriage not being respected. And we have kids being totally lost, not knowing their parents or the man having the relationship and then runs away or abandon his responsibility. All of that is because there's really no respect for that marriage thing. A nasab or the lineage is very important. Once the marriage happens, any children that will come between them within minimum period of 6 months If anyone comes before 6 months, that is not scientifically possible. So the minimum of 6 months, that is the minimum period of pregnancy. 6 months. الإمام الشافعي يقول ولحظتان، لحظة الوطء ولحظة الوضع. طيب, anybody who comes after 6 months, that will be attributed to that husband as a legitimate son or a legitimate child. Many things will be based on that. If that is a legitimate child for me, he cannot get married to my other children. He will inherit me. I will inherit him. So many rules will be based on that. The next thing that will be based on the marriage contract is a tawaruth بين الزوجين. They can now inherit one another. By the time they have the contract of marriage itself, inheritance rule would apply. Like if he signs the marriage contract, or he says they did the marriage contract, even if it's only verbal. In Islamic, it's binding if it's done verbal with all of these pillars. Writing is something extra that came later on. In the time that we live in, it has to be written. But Islamically, in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if it's just done verbally with all of these pillars as we explained, it is binding. She is his wife, he is her husband. The time he accepts and she accepts, and the sigha happens in front of two witnesses, and the wali is there, marriage is there. If that husband dies a second later, then she would inherit him. If she dies, he will inherit her. See, that is something that will, a very, very important contract. If he's a millionaire, she will take a huge chunk of money right after signing this contract or getting into this contract because of the marriage itself. Allah said, وَلَكُمْ نِصْفُ مَا تَرَكَ أَزْوَاجُكُمْ. He would qualify to take half of her property after her death, even if she dies just 1 second after the marriage contract. Even if she dies before the consummation of marriage, or he dies before the consummation of marriage. They just said the verbal thing, one of them dies, they would inherit each other according to the rules of Islam. There are some sunan lil-nikah, some of the sunan or sunnah or recommended things for marriage. They are not obligatory, but they are recommended. It's recommended, as you're saying the contract, to say a quick khutbah before that. خطبة الحاجة المعروفة إن الحمد لله نحمده, to the end of the hadith. It is also recommended to make dua for the two الزوجين, for the couple, for everybody who attends that or sees them. He said, بارك الله لك وبارك عليك وجمع بينكما في خير. May Allah bless you, may Allah pour His blessings on you, and may Allah get you together in khair and goodness. It is also recommended to announce the marriage contract and to have some kind of a duf. It's a specific kind of percussion tool. Obviously, a duf, many of us know that. It is also good to have some kind of a wedding or show it off, and some singing and so on, as long as it does not involve any kind of haram thing or talking about any inappropriate thing. It's also sunnah recommended to announce it in the masjid and so on. It is also sunnah once the consummation of marriage happens, is that the man makes a dua, and also at the time of making the intimacy, Bismillah, Allahumma jannibna ash-shaytan wa jannib ash-shaytan ma razaqtana, in the name of Allah. May Allah make us avoid and skip the insinuation of shaitan, and make shaitan avoid any of whatever you offer us from this relationship, whatever kids or children. It's also sunnah to conduct a walima. Walima is you invite people, others, for marriage. So it's basically food that you invite people for because of marriage, and it goes also with how the person can afford, has enough money, then at least a goat or so. If not, then whatever amount of money that he can afford. It is sunnah mu'akkada, highly recommended sunnah to do it. It's not obligatory, but sunnah. And also something very important for us to know, if somebody is invited to a walima, even though initiating a walima is the food for marriage, for a wedding especially. If it's sunnah to initiate it or make that food. But if you are invited, many scholars, including Imam Shafi'i, said it's obligatory that you have to respond. You have to go. They said it's wajib, fard ayn. Because of some hadith talking about this, the Prophet ﷺ said in some hadith that you have to respond to the walima if you are invited. He recommended many of the Sahaba who got married, like Abdurrahman ibn Auf and others, to have the walima in the first place. And the wisdom behind it, hikmah tashri'ah, is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, marriage in Islam is such a huge event. You thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you get people to attend that, and you share that success in your life, to be in such a relationship. You share and you show happiness of it, and you share that moment with people. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد. As far as responding to it, النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إذا دعي أحدكم إلى الوليمة فليأتيها. If one of you is to be invited for a walima, let him. فليأتيها لام الأمر. This lam فليأتيها is the lam of imperative. The Prophet ﷺ is ordering the person to come. قال in another hadith ومن لم يجب الدعوة فقد عصى الله ورسوله. And the person who does not respond, he does not go, he does not respond to this invitation, he is actually in a state of disobedience to Allah and His messengers. That's what led some scholars like Imam Shafi'i to say it's obligatory if you are invited to a walima, which is a wedding food for specifically for the cause of marriage. No other walima is obligatory on you. If you are invited for aqiqah, very good to, and sunnah and recommended to respond, but there's no other walima or food that the Prophet ﷺ talked or give us a hadith like this. You have to accept, and if you do not accept, you disobey Allah and His Messenger. This is like such a special order here from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If you go, shall you eat? No, you don't have to eat. It's not necessary that you eat because what's obligatory is you attending, just you attending. In one hadith, he said you have to respond. فَإِنْ كَانَ صَائِمًا فَلْيُصَلِّي وَإِنْ كَانَ مُفْطِرًا فَلْيُطْعِمْ. If you are fasting, you may يصلي يعني يدعو لهم. You may just make dua for them. And if you are not fasting, you may eat with them. So you see, subhanAllah, Islam is trying to get people together and trying to make one of the religious obligations. If you're invited for that, is you show off, you go. Because when you invite him as well, he will come to you. Or when there's another wedding in the family, that subhanAllah, that will go, it's like a bond. You're bonding and connecting the whole community together. Let's quickly talk about another topic because I really want to wrap up the nikah topic tonight, inshallah. So I have one time to talk about Udhiyah and Eid next week, inshallah, in the next majlis of al-fiqh, in the next session of fiqh. And nushuz is disobedience. It's taken from nashaza. What if it goes, by the way, for both husband and wife? What if husband and wife, nushuz linguistically means like a hill, some place, not hell, but hill, the little mountain, the little a mountain that could be in there, a piece of land that's not like the rest of the valley, it's a little high. What if some one of them is kind of getting arrogant or kind of getting above taking their responsibilities? They will become in a state of nushuz or nashes. وَاللَّاتِي تَخَافُونَ نُشُوزَهُنَّ. Allah is talking about that. What if you are the husband? He give advice for the husband, he give advice for the wife as well. I don't want to talk much about that. We all know the ayah talking about the 3 steps for the husband. Advice, if you see some kind of disobedience on your wife and your wife's part, what should you do? And again, those who are talking about Islam being a religion of being abusive, husband being abusive and hitting the wives, I can guarantee you that none of that is mentioned in this ayah in the sense that you understand it, because it's not there. Islam's goal is try to fix and contain the problem before it escalates. Islam is trying to save that family, and that's why he is giving some steps, even in the case of the husband, وَالَّتِي تَخَافُونَ, if he just smells, he's worried that she might be kind of developing some kind of approach of that's against the rules of the family, that's against the well-being of the family, he may go ahead and apply these steps. And it starts with advising. And again, only he can use these if he thinks that most likely this is going to work. If he knows that this is not going to work, he is not allowed to use any of these, because it goes with the goal itself, and Islam tries to solve the problem, not to make a problem. So he might advise her he reminds her with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, the responsibilities, on her, his rights, reminds her of the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and so on. And if it goes on and none of that works with her, then Quran suggests that ابعثوا حكما من أهله وحكما من أهلها. They may elect one representative from her side, one representative from his side and her side, from their family member, or otherwise. It's recommended to be from family members, but they can be otherwise, and whatever they agree on, they try to make peace and get them together. If they cannot, if those two representatives cannot agree on one thing, then the judge has to issue a judgment and see who is right and who is wrong, and he can use his power. Same thing on in the woman's side, nushuzur rajul. What if the man is developing that? The same thing. She might remind him, خيركم خيركم لأهله. The Prophet says, the best of you are those who are best with their families or wives. It reminds him, استوصوا بالنساء خيرا, of such a hadith. If not, then obviously her way is to just go ahead and file a case or go to the judge, who will force him to do whatever he's missing, if he's not providing for her, if he's not dealing with her in the right way, if he's not being right with her, then the judge should fix that. If not, then separation would be the way. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi. By this we come to the conclusion, the end of the marriage. There are so many details about marriage as well. That was meant to be more of a just a bird-eye view, just a general view over the marriage and the different steps, various steps of marriage from an Islamic point of view. If you have any question, you may put it right now. If not, you can also do that on Friday night, which is the time for the open session Q&A. If anything is not clear, if anything is personal that you want to ask about pertaining marriage or any other questions, you might reach out to me, send a message to my page or to my email or something, and I would be able to get to that, inshallah. But in the meantime, if anybody has any question regarding what we have discussed right now, you are welcome to put it in the comments before we conclude the session, inshallah. Don't forget that these days are days of takbir and tahleel, saying Allahu Akbar, saying La ilaha illallah, alhamdulillah at all times. وَيَذْكُرُ اسْمَ اللَّهِ فِي أَيَّامٍ مَعْلُومَاتٍ. Allah said, and they should, and such that they should mention the name of Allah or praise Allah or mention Allah at the known days. These are the known days, the 10 days, beginning of the Hijjah, which started yesterday. Tonight is the second night. It's highly recommended to fast on these days, to mention Allah. Remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, dhikrullah. No good deeds at any other time will be better than the good deeds to be done on these 10 nights. Whatever you can do of goodness in these 10 days, not nights, especially the days, it is going to be the best and the dearest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Brother Nouri, alaykum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Just clarify, can man say or show interest directly to a woman without wali? It can be done, yes, as long as it's done in the appropriate way. He is not trying to go dating with her. He's not trying to, he's just, in some cases, you might try to find out before you propose for the wali, maybe directly from her, or even better if you can get to do that through somebody, a third party, like maybe another female, one of her friends. You're just trying to test the waters, like they say, if she will be interested or not. But typically in Islam, you just go from the door, go to the family and ask them. But it's not a bad idea that if you want for the intention of marriage, as long as you are trying, subhanAllah, you see, looking at somebody who's strange between man and woman, like especially in the case of man, having a look, even a lustful look at a woman is very, very bad thing to do in Islam, unless you are considering, and it all goes into your intention. You're considering her for marriage. You're looking at somebody that I may be interested in. The Prophet ﷺ said to one of the Sahaba, Jabir, look at her. And the scholar said he can look at her even without her permission. He's trying to see, obviously, not looking at her, not going seeing her in. It's all about the face and the two hands, or looking at the silhouette, the body in general when she is in public, as long as the intention is to get married. So yes, you can do that. you can try to test the water and find if she will be interested or okay if you propose, to save yourself the hassle, as long as it's done within the proper Islamic proper way, not being alone with her, not trying to talk to her for no reason, but as long as the intention of marriage is there, it should be okay. Wallahu a'lam. طيب يا أحبابنا الكرام، جزاكم الله خيرا وبارك الله فيكم وزوجكم الله وبارك الله في زوجاتكم وأزواجكم وأزواجنا جميعا. May Allah bless our marriages. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless those who are not married to get married with the best of spouses, inshallah, and those who are married, may Allah bless them and bless their marriages. Allahumma ameen ya rabbal alameen. Barakallahu feekum wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Wassalamu alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.